We are the foundation, bulletproof the hating. From the plantation, we built the whole nation. We are the foundation, bulletproof the hating. From the plantation, we built the whole nation. We are the foundation, bulletproof the hating. From the plantation, we built the whole nation. We are the foundation, bulletproof the hating. From the plantation, we built the whole nation.
America, Black Jews, and material divisions that were created by Black Americans. Lewis and Clark, York, and the Indigenous Chronicles. King Juba and the Lost Treasures of America, History of Black Indian Chiefs in America.
The most important thing is family. AAA shares the same family values. For over 100 years, AAA has been providing legendary service and has helped what it values most, its members. Join our family, and you can save on your auto insurance policy with our competitive pricing. Just like family, we offer you our support when you need it. Whether it's questions about your policy or with our most trusted roadside assistance service. Visit AAA.
Sorry, I had to hear that.
So today we're going to be talking about Black Indian Chiefs in the Americas. All right, so this first book we're reading in, this is called All the Year Round. It says, Black Hawk is the name of a little Indian boy who lives in the far west. Many years ago, when Columbus came to America, the Indians owned all of this beautiful country. But the white people have driven them farther and farther west. It says Black Hawk's father is an Indian chief and a brave warrior. It says the little boy has long, straight black hair and a dark, reddish brown skin. Y'all see that? Dark, reddish brown skin, which you're really just describing the so-called African Americans. That's who you're describing, but in order to throw y'all off, they have to use dark, reddish brown skin instead of just saying these are so-called black people. Because when you start seeing dark, reddish brown, your mind start wandering somewhere else. When they're talking about you, this is how they throw you off and keep you confused about who you are. This is from a book called A History of the Black Church in Tuscaloosa. All right. It says the city of Tuscaloosa, Tuscaloosa County, and the Black Warrior River runs through the city of Tuscaloosa. All take their name from the Choctaw Indian chief Tuscaloosa. Tuska meaning warrior, Lusa meaning black, which was translated as Tuscaloosa and later Tuscaloosa. It says, according to historical accounts, Chief Tuscaloosa was a very wise and respected leader and was of impressive physical stature, standing nearly 7 feet tall. He encountered Spanish explorer Hernando de Soto. That's what I wanted to point out. He encountered Hernando de Soto. And we know every time Hernando de Soto described the American Indians, what were they described as? Black people. Even Chief Tuscaloosa, the name even tells you itself, the Black Warrior. He was a black man. He was a so-called black man. And it says,
okay, let me see. Hernando de Soto, who's that? Hernando de Soto. He was a Spanish explorer and conquistador. Who was involved in the expeditions in Nicaragua and the Yucatan Peninsula. For instance, Hernando de Soto described the Florida Indians as being very large and very black. Also, Giovanni Verrazano described the South Carolina Indians as being very dark in color, not too much different than the Ethiopians. Hey, hey. Here we go. Black Native Americans were largely erased from U.S. history. We refuse to forget explorers. We refuse to forget explores the situation of black members of the Creek Nation in the 1800s and their descendants in the 20th century. At the conclusion of the United States Civil War in 1865, Union General William Tecumseh Sherman signed an order dividing confiscated Confederate land, which itself had been confiscated from its indigenous inhabitants, into plots intended for formerly enslaved people. This agreement became known by the famous phrase 40 acres and a mule. Damn. After President Abraham Lincoln's assassination, however, his successor, Andrew Johnson, reversed the order, restoring the land to its Confederate owners. In his eye-opening new book, We Refuse to Forget, A True Story of Black Creeks, American Identity and Power, Caleb Gale traces the fascinating and largely forgotten history of black members of the Creek Nation, who were able to acquire land from the government. Addressing the reader directly, Gale references the erasure of Black Native identity from the face of contemporary history writing. It is puzzling for you to hear today of people who were both Black and Indian. He adds that being both fully Creek and fully Black seems nearly impossible, even contradictory. Contact between the Creek Nation and the Africans, he explains, likely began with Spanish conquistador Hernando de Soto's brutal 16th century expedition to North America. Some of the enslaved Africans the conquistador brought with him escaped and sought refuge with native tribes. But that's how they try to say that these people are black over here. But then we can go to Amerigo Vespucci and talk about how these lands were populated more so than Africa and Asia and Europe. So you ain't gonna tell me that these mongoloid looking people was overpopulating like populated more so than all of the other continents in the world. You don't have enough juice to prove that. For real. And then you have to think about, okay, well, how many people were in Europe at the time? How many people were in Africa at the time? How many people were in Asia at the time? All right. Let's think about it. How did these people build civilization? Huh? I guess everybody has the knowledge at the same time. Is that what we're going to assume? But back on this Henry de Soto dude. In the book, The History of Hernando de Soto and Florida by author Barnard Ship, There is a description of the indigenous inhabitants he encountered in the 1520s. It states that the complexion of these people is black, not much different from the Ethiopians. Their hair is black and thick and not very long. There is even a footnote at the bottom of the page that states, this is the first account of the Indians of this part of the Atlantic coast and is much the same as that given by later voyagers. These Indians were black. Why is this fact omitted from history books? Uh-huh. Hold on. All right, that's fine. All right. Anyway.
He encountered Hernando de Soto. Let's go get an account of Hernando de Soto, and we're going to see what he described the Indians as. All right, this book is called The History of Hernando de Soto and Florida, or Record of Events from 1512 to 1568. Watch what these Carolina Indians are described as. You guys heard this before. It says they go entirely naked, except that about the loins, they wear skins of small animals like martens, fastened by a girdle of plaited grass, to which they tie all around the body of the tails of other animals, hanging down to the knees, and all other parts of the body and head are naked. It says some wear garlands similar to birds' feathers. The complexion of these people is black, not much different from that of the Ethiopians. Okay, so it said these people were black. Now watch this as we go down on the next page to what it's going to say about the same people. It says, our sailors in the boat, seeing a great fire made up, and their companion placed very near it, full of fear, and as usual in all cases of novelty, imagine that the natives were about to roast him for food. But as soon as he had recovered his strength after a short stay with them, showing by signs that he wished to return aboard, they hugged him with great affection and accompanied him to the shore. Then leaving him that he might feel more secure, they withdrew to a little hill from which they watched him until he was safe in the boat. This young man remarked that these people were black, like the others. You see that? Black, like the others. So all the other people that were being described as black, these Indians were being described as black as well. So why is it always a problem when we bring this history out? To me, it's almost as if you pay attention, it's almost as if everybody knows this, but they want us to just be quiet about it. They don't want us to talk about it. Don't say anything about what these Indians look like. And if you do, you're trying to blackwash, or it's an Afrocentric narrative. It's not. We're reading the history. This is from the book called The History of Hernando de Soto. They're writing this in the book that was written hundreds of years ago before any of us was even born. So how are we blackwashing anything? We're just reading the history, but y'all don't like what it says. See, this is the history that gets covered up and hidden and omitted from the real history. So now when we bring this stuff out, again, this is like telling you your father is not really your father. You're going to kick against it because it's information you've never heard before. And it's the same thing with anything else. This is going back to Chief Tuscaloosa now. The Battle of Mobile in October 1540, while journeying through present-day Alabama, DeSoto and company encountered and initially befriended Chief Tuscaloosa or Tuscaloosa, apparently with the design of capturing him. So they tried to capture him because they wanted to put him in slavery, him and the tribe. All right. It says the plan failed. However, because the chief was not fooled and discreetly summoned numerous Indian warriors in the region to concentrate for an attack on the Spaniards at Mobile, an Indian town in present-day Clark, Alabama, about 25 miles north of the confluence of Alabama and Tobago rivers. It says the Spaniards eventually prevailed and then burned the town, but the victory proved costly. More than 2,500 Indians and nearly 100 Spaniards died, and hundreds more were wounded, including DeSoto himself. It says the battle, it is likely that Tuscaloosa ruled over a chieftain that would later be called the Mobile tribe. Spanish chroniclers describe the Indian chief as a gigantic black man. You see that? Okay, this is a PDF called Tuscaloosa and the Origin of Its Name. Okay, watch this. It says at Tallahassee, which was the southern boundary of Coosa, DeSoto was met by an ambassador from the Cacique of the neighboring province called Tuscaloosa. This is a pure Choctaw compound word, according to Meek.
Hold on, man. I gotta make a post. So look, let me get Tuscaloosa's. The great chief Tuscaloosa, according to Ferdinand de Soto, or Frederick Ober, the great chief Tuscaloosa. Okay, the cachet of Acosta and his warriors. Or is that the cacique of Acosta and his warriors greatly enjoyed the spectacle of the governor beating his own men, being so diverted thereby, and they neglected to secure him prisoner while he was in their power. Let me skip down. Let's get to the descriptions. That's what I'm here for. I'm here for the descriptions. Now, I know, okay. It says another account is to the effect that the cacique of Coosa went with DeSoto to punish a refractory sub-chief who was disposed to transfer his allegiance to a more powerful ruler named Tuscaloosa. This redoubtable chieftain, whose name in Choctaw is said to mean the great black warrior, governed the territory now chiefly comprised in the states of Alabama and Mississippi. He was probably a Choctaw and the most haughty and warlike of his tribe. He had heard through his scouts and runners of the arrivals on his frontier and sent his son to meet them. Though only 18 years of age, this youth was taller than any Spaniard in the army, agile and strong. He was kindly received by DeSoto, who entertained him at the banquet and gave him a quantity of beads as a present for his father. When he returned to Tuscaloosa, he was accompanied by Luis de Moscoso, master of the camp, and 15 cavalry who were to observe that they could and report to De Soto, who followed leisurely after and encamped in a grove 2 leagues from Cacique's town. All right. Tuscaloosa was a man of a commanding appearance, and though more than 7 feet in height, was so symmetrically proportioned that he might have been chosen as a model of manly beauty. He was taller than any of his people by more than a foot, but though his shoulders were broad and massive, his waist was slender, while his hands and feet were small and well molded. His eyes and hair were black as coal. His face was expressive and intelligent, but his mouth was large, with teeth ivory white and fang-like, giving him the appearance of a cannibal. Eyes and hair black as coal, they say. Okay. Modern city of Tuscaloosa, Alabama is named for him. Chief Tuscaloosa means warrior, the Tushka meaning warrior, Lusa meaning black. According to the official website, the city of Tuscaloosa, Tuscaloosa County, and the Black Warrior River, which runs through the city of Tuscaloosa, all take their name from the Choctaw Indian chief Tuscaloosa. According to historical accounts, Chief Tuscaloosa was a very wise and respected leader and was of impressive physical stature, standing nearly 7 feet tall. Demarest was definitely not as tall as Tuscaloosa. His passport application says he stood at medium height. However, his stature as one of the largest slaveholders in Lowndes County, Alabama, is indisputable. In 1850, Demarest owned 128 people at Lowndes County. They were surely cultivating cotton on his large plantation, spurred on by the whip of his overseer, J.B. May. He also enslaved several more people at Tuscaloosa, where he made his home, and in Mobile, where he had family connections. Mm-hmm. But that's very interesting. Chief Tuscaloosa's name is literally Black Warrior. Yo, that's wild. That's wild. So when we go back in history, what we're seeing is primary sources, firsthand accounts is calling the indigenous people of America black. You know what I'm saying? So you have him, what is his name? Hernandez de Soto. Hold on. Hernando de Soto. Yeah, man. So you got Hernando de Soto, a Spanish conquistador and explorer. who wrote of his accounts with indigenous people of America, and in his writings claimed that these people were essentially black. Many other voyagers after him, said the same thing. I sure would. How about that?
Name even tells you itself, the Black Warrior. He was a black man. He was similar to birds' feathers. The complexion of these people is black, not much different from that of the Ethiopians. Okay, so it said these people were black. Now watch this as we go down on the next page to what it's going to say about the same people. It says, our sailors in the boat, seeing a great fire made up and their companion placed very near it, full of fear, and as usual in all cases of novelty, imagine that the natives were about to roast him for food. But as soon as he had recovered his strength after a short stay with them, showing by signs that he wished to return aboard, they hugged him with great affection and accompanied him to the shore. Then leaving him that he might feel more secure, they withdrew to a little hill from which they watched him until he was safe in the boat. This young man remarked that these people were black, like the others. You see that? Black, like the others. So all the other people that were being described as black, these Indians were being described as black as well. So why is it always a problem when we bring this history out? To me, it's almost as if you pay attention, it's almost as if everybody knows this, but they want us to just be quiet about it. They don't want us to talk about it. Don't say anything about what these Indians look like. And if you do, you're trying to blackwash, or it's an Afrocentric narrative. It's not, we're reading the history. This is from the book called The History of Hernando de Soto. They're writing this in the book that was written hundreds of years ago before any of us was even born. So how are we blackwashing anything? We're just reading the history, but y'all don't like what it says. See, this is the history that gets covered up and hidden and omitted from the real history. So now when we bring this stuff out, again, this is like telling you your father is not really your father. You're going to kick against it because it's information you've never heard before. And it's the same thing with anything else. This is going back to Chief Tuscaloosa now. The Battle of Mobile in October 1540, while journeying through present-day Alabama, De Soto and company encountered and initially befriended Chief Tuscaloosa or Tuscaloosa, apparently with the design of capturing him. So they tried to capture him because they wanted to put him in slavery, him and the tribe. All right. It says the plan failed. However, because the chief was not fooled and discreetly summoned numerous Indian warriors in the region to concentrate for an attack on the Spaniards at Mobile, an Indian town in present-day Clark, Alabama, about 25 miles north of the confluence of Alabama and Tobigi rivers. It says the Spaniards eventually prevailed and then burned the town. But the victory proved costly. More than 2,500 Indians and nearly 100 Spaniards died, and hundreds more were wounded, including De Soto himself. It says the battle, it is likely that Tuscaloosa ruled over a chiefdom that will later be called the Mobile tribe. Spanish chroniclers describe the Indian chief as a gigantic black man. You see that? Okay, this is a PDF called Tuscaloosa and the Origin of Its Name. Okay, watch this. It says at Tallahassee, which was the southern boundary of Coosa, De Soto was met by an ambassador from the Cacique of the neighboring province called Tuscaloosa. This is a pure Choctaw compound word, according to Meek. from the Tusker warrior and Lusa black, which would of course be warrior black, but by inversion into English, black warrior. You see that? The black warrior. Did I make that up? No, all of this stuff that you can download all of this stuff. And I'm gonna put this, I'm gonna put this PDF on my website so you guys can download this and read it yourself. Now, this book is called The Horse and Blackfoot Indian Culture. This is another Indian chief named White Quiver. Watch this. It says White Quiver vowed vengeance against that tribe, referring to the Crow Indians, because the Crow Indians and the Piegan Indians, these Blackfoot Indians, they always had smoke for each other. So the Blackfoot and the Crow was always beefing. All right. It says in later years, he led many raids on their horse herds. White Quiver started going on war parties while still a boy. He grew to be a tall, strong man of remarkable physical stamina who could ride 3 days and nights without food while driving captured horses homeward from an enemy camp. Rats at the Door, who went on 8 horse raids under White Quiver leadership, remembered him as a generous, easygoing, fun-loving man. He described White Quiver's appearance as tall, very dark, and ugly. The Crow Indians who suffered most from his thievery dubbed him the Big Negro. Did I write that? Did I write that? No, I did not. Okay? That's in the book. The book written by John Ewers. He wrote this. I didn't write it. This book was written before any one of us was even born. My grandmother wasn't even born when this book was written. So don't come talking about y'all blackwashing history. That's what the book say. It says Crow mothers are said to have disciplined their crying children by saying, "Keep quiet, the big Negro is out there." So they would scare their children to be quiet, saying, "The big Negro is out there," referring to Chief White Quiver. So did I make that up? Absolutely not. Y'all just mad because we bringing this stuff out. Now, as y'all can see, this is from newspapers.com. This is of a woman named Rainbow Sistesso. Okay, now y'all have seen this picture before. I don't know about this, but y'all seen pictures of her that y'all post all around the internet. This woman was the granddaughter of Chief Yellow Cloud, Sioux Indian girl and granddaughter of Chief Yellow Cloud. You see that? And I want y'all to see this good so y'all can see her face. Indian Chief's daughter. This is the same woman y'all been posting. Most people had no idea this was the same woman. Her name is Rainbow Sistesso. She is a Sioux Indian. We're not making this history up. So y'all need to go get y'all fact checkers and fact check the work and stop hating.
Hey. Rainbow Sistesso. Rainbow Sistesso. So man, like man. Put her in the jungle. Would you look at that? Would you look at that? A Sioux Indian with Little Chief White Eagle, a Yaqui Indian. Let's go. Let me go right here. Wow. Yo, you can't even find her on the internet. Rainbow says that's so silly. Let me see if she's in here.
If you're making purchases, make them with a First Horizon commercial card. The reporting streamlines accounts payable and gives you insight into pricing trends that impact your bottom line.
Hey, yo, what did it do?
Where everybody at? 100.
I don't know, man. Shit, I'm being shadow banned. Like I tried to have that space. I tried to restart it and wouldn't let me restart it. So I had to restart my phone and all kind of other shit and start this new one up. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, it does that from time to time. It'll shadow ban me. But shit, it's all good. I mean, usually people like start coming in overnight anyway. You know what I'm saying? Because yeah, that's just how it be. But what it do? Yo, yo.
Oh shit, it muted me. Did you hear anything I said?
Nah, I ain't hear nothing you said until just
Okay, my
now.
fault. I said all the black man can do is take it day by day.
That's real. That's real.
We,
Yeah, man. I can. The more I be looking into like you know this little government situation and all these little laws
yeah.
that they're passing, the more like it's pretty evident. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like it's just the outright just erasure of these people. Hey, fun fact: have you ever heard of Chief Tuscaloosa?
I've heard of Tuscaloosa, but no, I haven't. I've heard of it. I've heard of Tuscaloosa, but I don't.
Now, I want you to look at it. I'm gonna post a picture of a statue of Chief Tuscaloosa, right? Why? I want to show you something. This is exactly like this be my point right
I
here.
mean, my thing is this, right? I mean, yeah, y'all gotta understand that the United. I feel like Black Americans. I'm telling you, I'm I'm about real solutions, right? And I don't know. Like I was reading earlier today. I was reading Spaces. I was reading a article about healthcare in this country, right? I don't know. I really hate going over our history sometimes because it's just so depressing. you know, it's just like, damn. The fact that we still here is strong. Is really. I mean, throughout all of that, it's some in it's some. What's the word I'm looking for? It's some. It is definitely a story for the books, you know.
Well, shit. I mean, depends on which story you're actually referring to. I mean, so many people think the story is just like chattel slavery,
I mean, that's
but
firstly what I think. I mean, I get the whole, you know, obviously, but I get how we were here, right? I mean, I get the whole genealogy argument that is made, you know, like know your genealogy, but like, I mean, I don't know. It's like much of I don't know. I don't know. So
like these Europeans when they got over here, they didn't just get over here and just take shit over. Like that's not what happened.
I think Europe.
First off, Europeans that were coming over here, majority of these people was black, and during that time, their royal families in Europe were
I
black.
don't. I mean, I just have a hard time. Yeah, there were
Why would you
in
have
the
a hard
late
time
13th
believing that?
century. There were black people in Europe. Yes, right.
Royalty.
That
There was black royalty
in
in
Europe,
the 1700s, the 1600s in Europe.
I guess. Oh,
Where do white people come from, Pharaoh? You think these people just so the royal family right here, like with Queen Elizabeth, as white as she is, and you know these white people don't really come from no indigenous people or indigenous tribes. So you know, because first off, if they come from the Greeks are not originally white at all. You know what I'm saying? The Greeks weren't white. The Greeks were black. Alexander the Great would have had to been a black Greek. I'm just these. The further you go back in history, there are no white people. Funny thing about it,
there
with the
is
further you go back,
white people
there are no
have
there
always
are no
been
white
around.
people. The further you go back in history, there are no white people. I'm telling you, there are less and less white people the further you go back in history. Especially if you go past 6,000 years. If you go past 6,000 years, then there are no white people on the planet.
What evidence do you have to support that?
White people claim that their gene goes back 6,000 years. They put the Bible at 4,000 BC. I mean, Darwin thought the world was 6,000 years old. I mean, come on, bro.
So six
Really?
thousand. You are aware that we've been on this planet. So it's 2023.
But yeah, you asked me about white people and how long they've been here. They have not, by their own, or I would say by the people that have been authoring history, and I wouldn't say it'd be on their behalf, but the people who have been authoring history, and they claim that white people genes, whether it's scientifically or in a biblical sense or you know what I'm saying, or historical sense, 6,000 years is the genetic marker. It's the accepted
Including
time.
today, right? So 6,000 years ago.
Whether you believe that that
Is this
motherfucker came
before?
from
Is this
a monkey or you believe Yakub created that motherfucker, still
is
6,000
this
years.
BC 6,000 years?
It would be 4,000 BC.
Right.
It'd be 6,000 years ago.
So they okay.
That would place them at 4,000 years um, before the birth of Christ, basically. If that's a real person that really lived at that time, but that's not
I'm curious. What do you do in your day job? 100.
I day trade and I homeschool right now. I also work with a bail bond company writing bonds and doing fugitive recovery.
That's interesting.
I do that part time. Yeah, but right now I basically am a banker. You know what I'm
Yeah,
saying? Like that's what I ultimately do. I'm a banker.
you would have did well in you should have went to law school. You would have did well. You still can go, but you would have did well in it.
Fuck law school. You know what I mean? That shit. You know, the London bar. You know, the bar exam goes to London.
The what?
The bar exam. You got to pass the bar exam to practice law, and that goes to London. You know that?
You gotta pass the bar exam.
To be an attorney,
Why did?
so you can practice law.
Why does it go to London?
The bar means. Hold on. Let me get the actual acronym. Um, it means British. Hold on. Something registry. Hold up. It's called the damn, what the hell is it called? Sorry, man. It's fucking pop-up ads and shit. It is called the qualifying for the bar examination in the hold on. Acronym. That's what I'm thinking of. Acronym. Here we go. Bar law. In law, the bar is the legal profession as an institution. The term a metonym for the line or bar that separates the parts of a courtroom reserved for spectators and those reserved for participants in trials, such as lawyers. So the bar refers only to the professional organization of barristers, referred to in Scotland as advocates. The other type of UK lawyers, solicitors, have their own body, the Law Society. You know what I'm saying? But if you want to practice any law here in America, you have to pass that bar exam.
Right, but it doesn't. It
And
doesn't go to London.
yeah, that shit does go to it. The existence of it, the creation of it, goes back to London.
Yeah, I mean, America.
But
The
like, but
existence of
like, but
America.
basically, it's like a jurisdictional thing.
I get what well, you gotta understand that most of the founding fathers were lawyers. They were rich. They were business people, and they practiced law more or less, right? Well, they understood law. That was like the go to profession back in the day, right? And then on top of that, we come from our political system is Westphalian. So European, like what I studied is like sometimes the arguments that are made, like, oh, Pharaoh, you got a very Eurocentric mindset. No, it's not completely untrue. I mean, what I studied was Eurocentric in its roots, but I guess the benefit of going to an HBCU and actually working, in government, I feel like the benefit of going to HBCU is I come from with my perspective as a black man, and then on top of that, I am able to, understand from other black professors. You know what I'm saying? Like it has a black view on this Eurocentric system. That makes sense to you.
Yeah, yeah, that makes sense.
I mean,
I mean,
like all the work that I
I don't
do
think.
is focused around really health. Like the policy issues I take most seriously is health and housing. That's the bedrock of what I do in research for black. That's like my passion. Because if I was to run, like, let's say, just in the hypothetical, if I was to run for office tomorrow, it would be on a platform of providing health and housing to black families, because those are literally the two biggest things that hinder us from living long and healthy lives, right? Housing, because we need housing in order to, live environmentally. But not only environmentally, it also brings an asset, a financial factor to it. Then health. I mean, in order to live a good life, healthcare in this country is just trash. So that's why I'm like, and we need healthcare reform.
So you said we need housing, right?
Housing and health. Health is our big.
So do we need so okay, that's interesting because in this housing situation, are these black folks renting?
Yeah. So the housing crisis is a national problem, and we really need to do more
Mm.
to. I mean, it's really a fault of this. I mean, okay. So the housing crisis, and I read on it. Like, give me a second. I read on it about, I think, a week ago. If I forget,
All these problems are just ridiculously like
man made.
not hard to solve.
Yeah. Oh no, dude. Oh, 100%.
Like and it's like people want to make it like a racial issue that they can't get no access to these programs and money and things like that. And I'm not gonna lie and say that there aren't people who may be racist who may try to restrict you from shit. But
So it's interesting.
that's not to say that's not to say that is going to keep you from getting any access to these funds. You know what I'm
So
saying? And I would argue that real quick, I'm gonna land real quick. I would argue that like when you come at a whole group of people and you say you want to offer housing, that's like offering jobs. That's bullshit. We don't need more jobs. We need more. So if we get more jobs, that would mean like, okay, there's some type of supply chain where we have secured and we control this supply chain. And now we're hiring our workers. So like, that's the way we get jobs to our people and to whoever we want. But we can't do it in the way like, okay, we just gonna get housed. You know
so
what I'm
no,
saying?
I think you kind of misunderstand it, and not to be like disrespectful or nothing like that. Just, I think you, like, when I say, okay, so I agree with you. Let me say this. First off, I agree with you. Like, yes, we need to train. We need to be. We, at one point, black people, we were very skilled. We have always been, right? But we need to reintroduce skills back so people can build businesses, right? So I agree with you on that. But in terms of housing, right? Housing is the single greatest. That's when you talk about generational wealth in this country. Housing can solve a lot of problems, right?
Not if they're renting. No, it
No,
can't
and
solve
I'm
it.
like, and that's what I mean buying homes. I don't believe in renting, because I don't like it. It just, for me, I don't believe in wasting money on landlords, and that's why like many black people wouldn't have to do that if they were able to get housing, right? Or able to afford like buying a house. That's what I mean, right? But when I'm talking about housing, I'm like making it easier for black families to buy houses, not rent, buy houses, right? I'm not a big fan of rent stabilization. There have been studies, even the Department of Housing and Urban Development said it was a bad policy. I'm not in favor of those policies, right? Me personally, what I believe in giving tax credits to, spreading, increasing information. Like, for instance, it was one tax credit within the state of Maryland that I actually helped a gentleman get, but me and him were talking. I didn't even know anything about it. He didn't, like, he talked with his neighbors. They didn't know anything about it. Basically, if you lived in the house for a certain amount, you lived in your home for a certain amount of years, you get a tax credit. You can write that off for your taxes, get money back. You know what I'm saying? Like, you can do these things to help you and get incentives to live you know what I'm saying, to live a little bit easier. You know, even myself, like I've learned, I'm getting a tax credit. You know what I'm saying? Like even think no, not housing, but like something student school related. I think
I mean, all you got to do is own an LLC. That's all you have to
it
do is open an
depends.
LLC.
It also depends.
Operate operate through your LLC
Yeah, but
and write off the expenses.
yes, that is one form. But there's so many.
That's
Another,
that's one really good way to reduce your tax liability. And also, if you want to further reduce your tax liability, create a trust and own your LLCs under your trust.
absolutely. I mean, I definitely. I don't know what business I'm gonna have, but I definitely. But there's so many other incentives that people get that they just don't sign up for. It's crazy. So
Create a holding company. Holding company can receive dividends from its subsidiaries and nonprofits. You know what I'm saying? I'm sorry, from its subsidiaries, tax free. So I mean, like, we don't need no like extra tax laws or anything like that. We don't even need that. All we need is some bread.
I mean, that's a
Give niggas bread and give them the means to how to utilize that capital and give them the expertise on how to sustain the capital. I
that's the
mean,
thing.
that's really
I
all you
mean,
have to do. I mean, all this extra shit, this whole thing where I hold your money for you and you get to live in society, but this and that shit is bullshit. That shit does not, it always has a ripple effect in a negative way towards the masses of people. And that's what makes the rich richer and the poor poorer.
and
The
I'm
people
trying to
extort.
tell you 100. It's always it's you have to put these policies in place. Because if you don't, I mean, it's a reason. If you just say we need more bread, we've been needing more bread. The average household income for a white family, right? Because they have the wealth buildup is it's close to 200K, right? They could afford to keep up and spend money on things because there's this stuff that appreciates for them. You know what I'm saying? They can go out and buy a car. For black families, the average.
Does that include, are we talking about Africans that come over here and classify themselves as white too?
I don't know how to answer that question, but I mean,
Yeah, yeah. I know you don't know how to answer
it's
that question
A
because
black person
you
has
make
the
it.
same economic power in a society as a white person has today.
you really
Um,
think that low? I mean, you go down
absolutely,
that hill.
absolutely. I know that. I
Well,
know that.
Pharaoh,
Wait a minute.
where did they get the
Um,
statistics? Where did they get the black and white statistics from?
I was just about to go to that.
I,
Even when it comes
I'm
to
just shocked.
household income, that is gathered from the IRS, and what is reported is the annual gross income. So that is, or excuse me, your adjusted gross income. So that would be the income that your tax liability is based off of, not your actual take-home pay.
Okay, so
It's so
low.
many layers to this, and I don't want to sit here and argue with you about this, but the reason that I raised my hand is because the system is actually designed for us to succeed. The issue is we don't understand it, and so we're not practicing it in ways
Okay.
that are
So
going to be
let's
beneficial.
touch on that.
Can you please not cut me off? I don't want to argue with you. I have something to say. I've been sitting here and I'm saying it. Please wait, and you don't have to always respond when you disagree. Um, I don't think that there needs to be any further policies in place or any further. First off, there's not going to be any kind of allocation for Black people specifically to do anything. That just doesn't exist for any group of people. But yeah, I don't think there needs to be any policies or anything further than what already exists in order for people to come out of the situation that they are in. And as a person that has actually done the work to actually help impoverished people, help build programs for them, a lot of people, especially collectively, are in the position they're in, not because of the system, but because of their choices. And no matter how much you change it, they're going to make the same choices. So,
Interesting. Okay, so if I might ask, what do you do in your day job?
what do I do in my day
Yeah.
job? I ain't answering that.
Say that again.
I'm not answering that.
Okay, fair enough. I just have a hard time understanding, like, oh wow. I just think, I mean, I'm just trying to collect my thoughts here because that was a lot. And trust me, I've worked extremely. I'm by no means one of those guys that think the world is all sunshine and rainbows. You know what I'm saying? Like, I've worked extremely hard to get where I am to today. Um, and I've been in very interesting social circles. Very interesting social circles. You know, amongst you guys, amongst upper class people, if you want to call them that, and just seeing how, and I think is, like I said, I've come from a very humble beginning, so just seeing the difference in thinking, right? And act, because I was at one point in my life, I was heavily on this mindset of you could build yourself up by your bootstraps and all of that stuff. And it wasn't until I actually like got into those circles that weren't really around my black people. I've been around black people my entire life, went to HBC, all that, but it wasn't really until I really got from around that I really understood it's a fundamental divide. Then it encouraged me to really go back into history of this country, the laws, the everything that was put in place. It is a fundamental. It is a problem, and I just feel like
Let me ask you a quick question. That divide, would you say that divide is class or race?
the divide. Oh, without it, I think it's both, Lo. And I'm speaking to you generally, like no bullshit. Like I know I joke and shit, but like I'm being 100% serious. I think it's both, and because this country, like I said, I think first and foremost, I'll say this right. It's a two-tier question what you're asking me. Yeah, I think it's class first. This country has always been class first, right? This country is. I mean, I have been, and I'll give you an example, right, from my own personal experience. Like I've been accepted in circles where lower class whites wouldn't have been, which was insane to me, right? But there is still a race factor in there, right? You cannot forget that because I mean, like I said, I've had a very interesting experiences, and it's just you got to understand. While race plays a factor, it is not the only factor. This country is class based. In order to when the people that made the laws for the foundations of this country, these people were rich white. You had to be rich, you had to be white, and you had to have owned land, right? So right there, the only people that really owned land at that time were the rich white people, to be honest with you. So
That
it's
is not true.
What?
My black ass family owned land at that time. That is not true.
I'm talking about during the 17. I'm talking about majority.
My black ass family owned land at that time. That is not
Okay.
true.
Okay, and that might very well be true. I'm talking about the ones that actually they could have very much were they white or black.
My black ass family owned land at that
That's funny.
time.
Right, they could have owned
That's
land.
funny.
I mean, I asked the question because I mean, we get into this point where I don't know where race is who anymore. But I only
Right,
listen.
right, which was going to get to my other
Hold on,
question
Lo.
because
I only asked the
mm,
question because they, even though your family might have owned land, they still didn't hold any power. They weren't making any laws at that time when this country was formulated.
that is not
Okay,
true.
okay, go ahead, enlighten me.
That
Well,
is not
you look at,
true.
listen, why do you look? I understand why you look at history in such a racial perspective because that's how they taught it. They taught it from a
It's
very
is it how they
racial.
There
taught it or
isn't
how
in
it
the
was
United
perceived?
States.
Pharaoh, why can't I finish a point, bro? Yeah, like they teach history from a very racial perspective, while at the same time acknowledging that it is a social construct. You know what I'm saying? So our government basically practicing the social construct of race is this essential problem. You know what I'm saying? Now, as far as it actually being, when you're saying people are being racist, is this only in your mind through assumption, or are these actual confirmable times? Because if you're going to talk about these white people being racist, can you be specific
Yeah,
on
well,
who?
it was 1776. I would say specifically. But I would argue that the idea of race, and hold on, I want to read this definition for you. Give me a sec, because I was reading a health journal article earlier today, and I think it accurately portrays race, defines race, and like I read the definition and I instantly thought of the spaces that we sometimes get in. Just give me a second. I'm gonna mute up and find the definition. I'm going back to the
While
article.
you look for that, I just want to say this one quick thing that I wanted to bring up when you brought up race. Um, when it comes to the difference between class and race in the United States, they're the same thing. So all we're doing is classifying ourselves by race, but that race is not based on what we are made up of biologically. It's based on the social construct that we choose to associate ourselves with, that is defined by who we are biologically, but it is a social construct that replaces the system of class, which is no different. That is the class system. We have class system. You said this country has always been classes, or class has always existed in this country. Class has always existed amongst civilization, amongst all living species, to my knowledge. So it's just in the United States, they've created the system of race to replace the system of class, but they are no different.
And it
So
actually,
I wanna say this
to
when we
further a point, real quick, it's actually used as a status, because if you identify as a Black American, aka an African American, that is a 14th Amendment citizen, all right, classified by the United States corporation. You feel me? So now you don't get those tax exemptions as an Indian, which your ancestors and your people once were, before they erased you out of history and made you this Black American now.
so I wanna read this. And this is from actually a journal article I was reading earlier today, and it was going to respond to both your points. I did hear you 100. I did hear you low. Um, it's going to respond to both of your points. I think in a because we were talking about how race and class is made up, or it was taught to us, and it's what you believe, and we don't think that historical factors actually have anything to do with like today's present. So I just want to give you an understanding, and this was in 1790. So I'm just gonna read two paragraphs. So just bear with me, and then I'm open to hear what y'all think. So it says, I was reading it. It was a
Is this a
health.
link? If so, can you share? I like to read
Yeah,
along.
I would definitely share. I'm on my laptop. Give me a second. I will share it.
Or I could type the URL if you.
It's a 2000 article. It's from understanding and addressing racial disparities in healthcare. I was trying to see, like, in a span of 23 years, if things had changed. But anywho, it's a chapter in it that goes over. And by the way, for other context, low. It it was made by National Library of Medicine, National Center for Biotechnology and Information. So I'm going to go ahead and read it. So it says, it was on the section of race, racism, and discrimination. It says, many observers are surprised and perplexed by these findings. However, we can only regard these findings as surprising if we take an ahistorical and decontextualized view of the data, right? In compliance with Article 1, Section 2, and Paragraph 3 of the Constitution of the United States, the very first census in 1790 enumerated three racial groups, right? You had white, you had blacks as 3/5 of a person, right? So let's just stop right there, right? Let's stop right there in terms when we talk about race and social class. Here you have this was the year 1790, right? This was
Hold on,
Actual,
real quick. Just before you keep going, you're saying that the Constitution said blacks were 3/5?
yes, this was actually in law, as the Constitution is the supreme law of the land. So at
Really?
one, yeah, in 1790. Keep that in mind,
Okay.
because laws. So how it works, 100 is laws are amended, laws are added. It all, it all adds up. And the Constitution at the time, keep in mind, America was technically created in 1776, right? It's a
Mm.
very relatively new country, right? So I mean, at this point, this is the only document of the land, right? But the way they formed the document was that it's supposed to be added, supposed to be everything in the document. I would argue is designed to be debated over, added, stripped away. It's the nature of laws, and it really hasn't changed much since 1776 when they created the damn thing, or when
What
they
were the
created the
three racial
Constitution.
classifications that they said were listed on the census
Yeah,
in 1790?
so it was whites, blacks is 3/5 of a person, and only civilized Indians. So I just want to, we're going to get there, but I just want to point out that stop at blacks is 3/5 of a person, right? This
I,
here
I
you,
have to question that because one, no one was
I can never
classified as
finish.
blacks. I- Okay.
Right, and I think that, so let me just say this. Right here, we have blacks as 3/5 of a person, right? 3/5. At this point, I don't know the. Sorry, can you guys hear me?
Yeah, I
Yeah.
hear you.
So at this point, you have blacks as 3/5 of a person, right? So at this point in time, you have an actual law put in place within our Constitution that didn't even classify us as a full person. That's racist. You see what I'm saying? And let me just drop down what I'm talking about in terms of racism, right? And I'm going to use this definition from this article. It refers to an organized system rooted in an ideology of inferiority that categorizes, ranks, and differentially allocates societal resources to human population groups. Now, I love this definition because it's so important, right? I agree with everyone when I say that everyone can agree, but just by reading that definition, race is beyond stupid, right? It's the ideology of inferiority, right? That's batshit crazy, right? Nobody's inferior.
It's not. It doesn't have. Inferiority doesn't have anything to do with it.
Well, I know what I'm saying.
You're
Like, I
putting
get
X.
that.
You're
Exactly.
putting
It
extras
has
on.
nothing to do with it. Race, like inferiority, has nothing to do with this concept of race because it's not real. But when you start to use this concept and you you tie that with economics and laws, it becomes a real problem for me, and it's hard to ignore this concept of race, right? Because like I said, we didn't make it that way. It was America in the year well, not in the year, but specifically in regards to this statement, 1790, that you clearly see as three fifths of a person, right? What does that even mean? So then, and only
I don't think it says the word black in that
Yeah,
Constitution.
can I
I
please
don't think it says that
explain?
at all, sir.
So first off, in 1790, the classification black did not exist. The three-fifths clause that is referencing applied to slaves or anyone who was not considered to be free. The conception
what?
or the yes.
Okay,
What do you mean what? If you look at the Jumbotron, it is a picture of the 1790 census and it shows you all the classifications. The classifications were free white males and all other free persons. You were either a slave, white, or all other free persons.
okay, hold on, give me one
Now
second.
The
listen. Now listen
1790,
to this. It says. Now this is where it talks about the 3/5 part, right? It says. It mentioned it one time. Representatives and direct taxes shall be apportioned the among several states which may be included within this union, and according to their respective numbers, which shall be determined by adding to the whole number of free persons, including those bound to service for a term of years, and excluding Indians not taxed, 3/5 of all other persons. So it doesn't say that black people were 3/5. That's
Okay.
people putting extras on it. And that's what I mean. Like, and when people try to make that shit historical, that's where I have to say, no, that's not true. It's not even in the Constitution.
Okay. So just because the law was written that way doesn't necessarily. I mean, we all know who it applied to. It applied to
It
Bruh,
applies to
bruh,
those that fall within that
it
classification.
applied to
that's right.
slaves.
Listen,
And
right, slaves.
That's right.
All
That
right,
is
so
not racial.
thank you for bringing up that word because I don't think that we can have a clear or objective understanding of history if we don't have an objective understanding of what the word slave is. I have a presentation I've been putting together, but I have my little notes, which I can go over really quickly just to give us an understanding of what the word slave is. So, in law, I'm talking about a legal definition because that's what we're talking about here.
can
So,
you
the
all hear
word
me?
slave, yeah,
You can hear me?
I can hear you. If for us to get an understanding of who they're talking about as far as slaves, because let me ask you before I assume, are you coming to the conclusion that by slave they automatically meant black people or a person who had a specific skin color?
Yes.
And that is incorrect. The conception of a slave meaning a black person, every person that looked like you, I, Wano, or anybody else that we call black was not a slave or was not a subject of chattel slavery. And every white person or person we consider to be Caucasian was not a freed person. And even when it comes to what a slave was considered to be in law at that time, and even still now, is not a subject of chattel slavery. I don't know why y'all can't get out of that understanding, but chattel slavery is not the only system of slavery that was practiced in this country. So boom, the word slave, because our law was at that time written in Old French in 1300, meant servant.
So
The word,
indentured servant wasn't a slave.
I didn't say that it was. I'm
So
telling you, I'm going to the
I'm focused on
etymology.
slavery. I'm not focused
And
on
I'm
indentured
telling
servant.
you, but in order for us to understand what slavery was in law at that time, we have to understand how the word slave and slavery was used at that time. I didn't say that slave was indentured servitude, even though it is. I didn't say that. What I said was the word slave, which was dates back to 1300 in Old French, meant servant and came from the word Slav. In law, it's written as that word SLAV, which in French also meant servant. Before 1300, the word came from medieval Latin, which was Slavus, which also meant servant. So when you're breaking down the etymology and you keep coming back to the same word, now you got to go to that word. So I went to servant. Servant as a noun used in Old French before 1200 was one who owes service to a master or landlord, one who serves, one who waits, or one who attends.
Now, quick question. If all these, and now if slavery was race based, then why would they have to say free whites? Why don't they just say whites? Why do they have to dictate the specific whites that they're talking about?
What do you mean?
Why would they classify these white people as free whites and not just white if slavery was as racially based as what you're saying?
At one point, were they classified as free whites? I'm genuinely curious. I'm not trying to even get. Trying to understand what you're getting at. Like what?
Look at the Jumbotron. You'll see the 1790 census and you will see the different classifications. There was there was a distinction between free whites, whites, slaves, and all other free persons.
And this is exactly why we tell the freedmen that their claim is not racially based because you had white people that were considered as freedmen too, because they were refugees or freed from slavery.
And this is
So
also why blacks can't have a reparations claim for being descendants of chattel slavery, because there were people who are not considered to be black that are also descendants of chattel slavery.
okay, okay. Let's let's just back up. We're jumping to a lot of conclusions, and we're ignoring a lot.
Nah,
Oh, excuse, I'll let y'all. I heard your point. I get it. But I think we're jumping to a lot of conclusions, and we're leaving out large swaths of American history. Um, to Lowe's point, so you looked up the etymology of slavery, correct? And you or what?
wait,
Okay,
real quick.
I can never
You
finish.
said we're leaving out. You say we leaving out history. To be fair, you're the one who misquoted the Constitution and said it pertained to black people being 3/5 of a man, and we were giving you all the historical references, especially the Constitution itself, to prove to you that you were wrong.
So
So don't be speaking this we shit.
let me ask you a question in
I'm
regard.
not French.
Let me ask you a question. 100. So, what did majority of the slaves in the South look like?
Well, that would be a matter of population. There's a non-racist way to explain why a lot of them or most of them could be black, and you want to know why?
That
Because
really depends on the state.
black people historically have always been the largest population in the Americas. That's a fucking fact. Ain't no white people came over here and killed off all of nobody but themselves.
So you didn't answer my question.
Your question,
I
when you
did
say in
answer
the
your
South,
Excuse me,
question.
where
low,
I answered
slavery,
that's the common sense
but you gotta
Let me.
understand,
Can
Pharaoh,
I
when you're
listen?
talking about slavery in the
Y'all
South,
always
I
try
slavery
to
was
answered.
have a
Listen,
dialogue.
I answered your question. You didn't understand or comprehend my
I
answer.
asked you, how did majority of the slave? Well, how did
he
the slave?
answered your
Okay,
I
question.
fucking answered that damn question.
you
And
said.
But
even
So
if
you
you
said
ask
they.
me
So I.
slower,
Okay. So what?
even listen. You're not even listening to my answer. That's how I know you're
I
not
swear
even
I heard
having this
you word for
conversation.
word. You said.
Okay,
You want me to
if
repeat
you
back
heard
what you
me,
said?
if you heard me, then you wouldn't tell me that I didn't answer your question. Then you're
So
just being obtuse.
would you like?
Pharaoh, you have to
Okay.
understand, when it comes to slavery in the South,
Jesus Christ.
the the system of slavery was different by state. It was outlawed at different times and allowed at different times.
So low.
The
This is
type of slavery that was
1790.
happened different times by each state.
So low.
And since
Even
1790.
1790.
So low. This is 1790. No slaves. No states outlawed slavery. I would say arguably until up until the 1860s. So let me say, I'm gonna ask you this question then, because maybe like to 100's point, I didn't comprehend his answer. Um, what do you think majority of the slaves in the South look like in the year 1790?
Texas didn't even make slavery legal until 1836, but carry on.
So what do you think majority of the slaves look like in 17 and 18? I'm sorry, 1790 in the South.
Are you asking me or are you asking Juan?
I'm asking you.
So, like, Texas is in the South, right? Lo just told you Texas didn't become a state until 1830.
Texas did not become a slave state. They did not ratify
A
slavery
slave
until
state.
1836. Texas slavery was not legal in the state of Texas until 1836.
There you go. So you're gonna have to switch your question around. You feel me? You're gonna have to switch that question around.
That's why I'm like, your question is based on the understanding of slavery being this one thing, and we can't have an objective understanding of events of the past until we understand what that thing is.
That part. And you said indentured servitude is not slavery. Yes, it is. That shit is slavery, bruh.
Okay.
That's why I was trying to
Okay.
go through this little. I put this whole lesson together about what slavery
So
is by law.
I'm a little confused, and you all don't think that I'm just very confused. You all don't think
How are you confused?
you don't think that Black Americans today suffer from any disadvantages in American society? Straightforward question.
Maybe depending on who they are.
Yeah, it depends on who they are and what they know. But you can't say that society is to blame because they don't attain things. You can't just say that. Some people
Speaking of,
have their parents to tell them right from wrong, and some people have their parents to tell them how to balance a budget. Some people have their parents to teach them how to manage assets. Some people have their parents to teach them how to run businesses, master a trade, a craft. I mean, if you have your own trade in your own craft, how do you not build wealth for yourself in this day and age? Can you explain that? Because you can still have a business for yourself and you don't have to scale up to a corporation for you to survive.
Gotcha.
and this is, and speaking of racial disparity studies, I was, without saying too much, I was a part of building a workforce program that was a part of a racial disparity study specifically for people who lived in project communities. And what the thing proved is um it's people's choices. It's people's choices.
Yeah,
The thing
so
about the thing about
I think that
racism
just
is you
putting
can never prove
I
it.
think
It's always in somebody's
so
mind.
I'll say this. I think that it's okay, so I just find it amazing how you guys like it's someone's choices, but you guys obviously know what happened in you know, I mean, what's was it Tulsa, Oklahoma? I mean, that Black Wall Street. I mean, we can
We
say,
don't really know. We really
okay.
don't. Time out. Time out. That's not fucking fair.
How,
We really don't know. We really don't know what the fuck happened.
And you guys always jump
Like,
to the same events as
I
if that
mean,
was the government, the United States, that was an act specifically against the Black collective. I,
it
I get okay. I get why you guys jump to that conclusion,
so
but
the United States government may have not been responsible, but at the end of the day, no one sought out. Hold on, no one sought out these people that did these things. It just went away, and
so
that's not.
you know how crazy you sound right now.
I,
So nobody sought out the people, that very suspects who were responsible.
I
Just think
find
about.
it amazing.
This. Just think about it. Just think about what you're saying.
100. It is
Like
well
basically a whole.
100. You
Okay,
have
so so
survivor. Hold on, brother. Because
so
hold
so,
on, brother. I let
but
you
you
speak.
don't.
You
You have survivors, but you have no suspects.
one
Who?
100.
Who?
You have
Like,
actual
okay, who was
survivors that
flying? Like
played
for instance,
a,
like
a
who was
big
flying the
role.
plane? Nobody knows. Like, you don't have the details, so you can't say it was a race of people within the
and
government.
this is
And
down
we
to a.
don't even know that they were government planes. We absolutely don't know.
I'm
They
sorry,
don't even know
100.
what planes it were.
It's a quick Google search. The state of Oklahoma formed the Tulsa Race Riot Commission to investigate these riots. So don't say nobody sought out. How that went about, we're not talking about. But to say that nobody sought out when the state established a commission,
What year was this?
1997.
And what was the results of that commission? No, wait,
Like no, no, no,
1997?
no. The argument was not how it was carried out. The
Low.
argument was that it was not
When did
sought
the
out.
Tulsa
The argument was
low?
that the government did not seek out to halt.
Okay.
Now you're
I
moving
see
the
you.
goalpost
I'm not moving the
because we're
goalpost.
talking about race, because we're talking about racism. We're talking about the government being
Low.
against a specific people that look a certain way. We're talking about historical racial disparities. This is what we're talking about. So
When did
to the
low?
point,
Let me. You got to let me speak too.
you're moving the goalpost.
When did the Tulsa, Oklahoma riots happen? When did they happen?
In the what 20s, what
Okay then. And they
1921.
investigated it in 1997. Do you
This
really?
commission was
Oh,
formed.
I'm
No,
sorry.
the commission was formed in
It's a
1997. This is just
joke.
an article
It's a
I found.
joke.
I don't know if there was any investigation prior to 1997. The fact that a
There
commission was
wasn't.
formed,
It
the
wasn't
fact that a
one.
commission was formed in 1997,
Wow, you are
I'd
going
assume that
way
there was
too
some type of.
hard
I'm not
to
going
defend these
hard.
people. Like,
I'm not
why
defending
can't my
any people.
problem is
I
people?
have an
Hold on,
objective
excuse me,
view
excuse me.
of history. So I can't sit here
You
and
have
say
an
something
objective
didn't
view of
happen or
history.
something did happen if I don't look into it. I don't know. So what I'm gonna find, let me freaking look and see
As a
if I
black
can
woman,
find any information.
you don't think the Tulsa race riots happened. You don't think that?
Do I not think the Tulsa race riots happened?
Do you think they happened or not? It's a simple question. You
I
look
do
at
think they
history.
happened. Why
Okay,
are you
then I
asking me
asked
that?
you that because 100 says that he doesn't think they happened, and I'm like, my thing is this.
I didn't say that. I
Oh,
didn't
okay.
say
Oh,
that.
you
I
didn't
What
say
he
said
said
that.
what
was we don't know.
I said we don't know. Like, okay, it depends on what you're actually talking about. If you're talking about the
You
government
think they
being,
happened, but you don't know they.
man, shut the fuck up and let me finish. If we're talking about the actual flying of the planes by the government, we don't know that they were government. That's what I am speaking to. So if we don't know if they were government, you cannot blame the government. We don't know.
I never blame the government. You brought the government into this conversation, but I
I
do
didn't.
blame. I don't
I
blame the
didn't blame.
government for
I don't
this.
know who to blame. Who do
I
you?
don't.
How can you? I said literally, I
You
don't
never
know.
directly said that, but the conversation was
Let's.
about
Well,
slavery
I can't
within
get
the
off my point
government.
because
The
I keep getting
conversation was
interrupted.
about the government being against a group of people who look a certain way. We were talking about race
I brought up the Tulsa
and
race.
government classifications
Okay.
and historical classifications. The conversation was not about the Tulsa race riots
The fact that no
or
government, the
Tulsa
government's job.
riots.
Let me explain to y'all. The government's job, and whether you signed up for it or not, it's the job of the government to keep order, right? The fact that this was allowed to happen, right, from on par. I mean, most likely, it was sheriffs, deputies involved at the time that contributed to the destruction of the
Bruh,
of the city of
Those
Tulsa.
people
bruh.
are not the government. Those people are not the establishment
What?
of
You
said
sound
government.
crazy. Let
just
me say that.
because
Well, I'm telling you what I know.
just because there
I'm
are
telling you what I
people
know. Somebody that's
that
a sheriff or any legal entity like a law
they are
enforcement with
government officials, just because corruption
doesn't
exists,
matter. They're the
you're
government.
talking
They
about
represent the
corruption.
United States.
You
Low.
okay,
Hold
all
on now.
right, that's
But
fine,
hold
I'll
on
give
though.
you
Trust
that, but
me.
what you're
But hold
talking
on though.
about is
But
corruption.
hold on. Time out. Time out.
What?
Hold on though. Let's
Did
time
you
out
just
for
say
a
a
second.
sheriff wasn't the government? Like,
I did not say that. Maybe if
it
you
doesn't
listen
matter
for
if
a
they're a
moment,
local. It doesn't matter.
maybe
You have
if you listen for a
Oh my
moment, you'll actually
god.
understand what niggas are saying.
So let me say
But you
this.
run your trap so damn much
Anybody
and
that
don't know nothing but McGraw Hill regurgitation.
and
so
that's real because you did come up in here falsifying
Reading an article,
historical,
misquoting the damn Constitution.
and
Like,
you
did
want
you
to be a
fact check your
politician,
article
dude,
first?
and you want to be a
no,
politician, bro. Like that's crazy.
y'all don't want to hear any type of dialogue, but you guys
No,
just want to
we hear
lecture me
you. We hear
every
you, but
time. Listen, you
you
all
just
are.
keep
You're
cutting us
moving
off.
the goalposts.
You
This
keep cutting us
conversation
off
was
and
not
moving the
about
goalpost.
Tulsa, Oklahoma. The conversation was about race. Why are we still focusing on
Right. So
Tulsa?
I
Yeah.
wanted to. So I focused on Tulsa because what 100 said. I wanted to bring up the fact that just because a government this happened on American soil, no one intervened. Right? Not a single person intervened, not from a government standpoint. In fact, I'd argue that the government, some members of the government, were a part of it, right? Whether
So
they might not have been a part of the federal government, but nonetheless, they were a part of the government, right? Whether
what
it be
about
local.
state?
You're talking
It's
about
all three things.
corruption.
It all waves the same flag. United States government behind it, right? Every state may have their own jurisdiction and whatnot, but they all fall under the same federal banner, which is the 50-star flag. That's what you see, right? That's the American flag. So my point being is that you see that the government did not intervene. No Marine, no trials, no. You see what happened at January 6th, right? Government could have had use resources to find those who involved on a massacre at
Let's
that
not use
scale.
propaganda as examples
Okay, well that's
to prove a
fine.
point.
You cannot believe in it. But my point being, those people that stormed the Capitol were prosecuted. Same should have been done for the Tulsa, Oklahoma. It's about equality and equity at the end of the day. It is a very real factor in this country, right?
So man,
And this
listen,
goes,
bro.
you're right.
Like,
It is I'm sorry. It is a factor in this country, and I would even argue to the point of the classification of what black is, and why people are allowed to choose not to be so.
So
About
what
the
is
legal classification.
so let me ask you
and
this.
another thing,
Let me
and
ask you
another
this.
thing
Why is the
about Tulsa, Oklahoma. No, I was literally talking, and then you cut me off. So I was mentioning about Tulsa in particular. Tulsa was founded by Indians. Tulsa was founded by Indians. Why do they call it
what does this
Black
have
Wall
to do
Street?
with
Why
Indians?
is they calling it? Because this is the point that I be trying to tell you. Like when they give us narratives of the past, they will give us labels to attribute to these people, in which these labels they would not have called themselves that. You know what I'm saying? You got to look. You got to look at Oklahoma historically. Oklahoma historically is inhabited majority Indians. It's Indian territory. And if you look, and if you actually study history, Oklahoma it became like a slave state, basically. It became like a slave supporting state. And it was inhabited mostly by Indians because after Indian removal, they displaced a lot of Indians from Mississippi or east of the Mississippi over into Oklahoma. A lot of these different tribes landed up in Oklahoma. That's why, and then not surprisingly, but interestingly enough, you would notice that when you go to Oklahoma, majority of Oklahoma is black folks living there. It's black folks living there. But when you say it's Black Wall Street, right? When you say these people are African Americans, right? When you're giving a whole different historical narrative about these people. So why should I believe all these other details when you are erasing their indigenous heritage? You know what I'm saying? You're gonna sit here and make it seem like these people just got out of slavery and built that shit when you cannot just build whole cities like that. Like what? Like what? Are you fucking crazy? You cannot build cities like that. That shit takes generations and generations. Like I said, that was done by a specific group of Indians that are now classified as black, and they give us this racial black and white story when they're not, when in actuality it was something that can have been totally different. Now, what we know is that there was an attack. We know that there was an attack. And then when we look at the damage of this attack, the damage is still affecting us because we looking at them as black people that came from slavery, that came from Africa. We don't even look at them as people that owned their land, that people that have land rights and tax exemptions. We don't even look at them in that regard. That's a whole different person. Like I said, like the word person is just an entity. It's not to mean about like humanity or anything. Like a person is like McDonald's. Like your person is your strongman name. When you have a business, you don't do it just under you yourself as a human individual. You have a person set up. That's what a person is, a U.S. citizen. That's all it is. If you are property of a business, you cannot be a tax-paying citizen. That's how they mean that shit. And you're putting extras on it, trying to be on some, oh, they're not human. That's not how they wrote that shit. This is legalese. You niggas
To
kill me
bring
with this
back
shit.
the Tulsa example to the point that we were making about race, and if we're talking about even to reclassification of African American or Black and what that means in law, um, I think there's a reason these people were reclassified from Indian to Black and then their property destroyed. I don't expect the law, and I this actually attributes to your point, Pharaoh, but kind of not under the basis of race being anything genetic. As far as Black people not
I never
having,
said race was genetic. I don't believe in
I
the
didn't say that. I
concept
didn't
of
say that you
race.
did. I didn't say that you
I
did.
think that you
But
just
your
said I did.
conclusion of racism makes it so. So walk with me. I will say
You're going to tell
that
me about my conclusion of racism rather than just
you
hearing it from me?
you already shared it. So
Go
I
ahead.
would
I'm
say
listening.
that as far as Blacks, right, the classification of Blacks
Hmm.
in America that do not have civil liberties. In fact, according to
At
the
which time?
at any time,
I would argue today black people have civil liberties. So no, it's not at
I'm
any time.
talking by legal definition.
Yeah,
By
by legal definition,
legally,
I have civil liberties. It's one of the very
a
thing I
Black.
stand
Can you
on.
let me finish, please? Legally, according to Black's Law Dictionary, the fourth edition, a Black would fall under the classification of I'm going to get the actual pronunciation, but the Latin phrase civil civila mortus, which pretty much means civilly dead or to not have to be alive considerably by law. There are other groups of people that fall under this classification, but I'm only talking about Blacks right now. Um, so to that point, I would we're there. But the thing is about said Blacks is, again, like you said, we all agree it's a social construct. So when we say that this country or said entity or whoever does said thing to group of people, which is a racial classification, that is not, I can classify as white if I want to. Again, I use the example of my eighth grade math teacher. On paper, she's African American. She's white as I don't know what. She's not Black at all, doesn't even have a Black close ancestor to my knowledge. But her family emigrated from South America. So on paper, she is African American. So to say that this system of racism or the system of race is to be against for or whatever a group of people based on what they look like and not what they choose to classify themselves as is incorrect.
And I just want to make it clear. I hear what y'all are saying, right? I mean, I get it. Like I've never. Once again, y'all keep trying to. Not y'all. I get what you're saying, right? Race is a social construct. I've said that countless times. But going, like I said, I want to stay clear on this because going back to the definition that was provided. Give me 1 second. We're going back to it.
You can't.
I
My
think
thing,
there's an
my thing is, you just can't skip. You just can't skip to the racial part when you know what I'm saying. There's a whole indigenous part
I feel
prior
like, I
to.
mean, you guys
You know
got
what
to
I mean?
understand. I mean, in
Like,
this
like,
scenario,
like, and the fact that they erase. Yo, like, what is up with you, bro? If you stuck looking for whatever your whatever your notes is, you know what I'm saying? Then allow somebody else to speak, mute up, and then when somebody finishes, then you can respond. Like, I don't know what's up with you. It's like you can't wait to talk over people to get your point across, but you can't get your point across if you're talking over somebody who's already talking. And that's what I
no,
mean by
you
like
need
you're
to go read
having
a book.
You're having these conversations in bad faith. It's like we might as well have these conversations by ourselves. You know what I'm saying? If you're just going to like cut us off and you know what I'm saying, not even let us speak.
Go ahead, 100. I'm listening to you, brother.
All right. But like I said, you can't just skip to the whole black thing and address the black thing, and especially when you know the black thing is some bullshit to mask the fact that we're indigenous to these lands. They tried to
So,
erase us out of these lands.
and you know, I understand that you feel that way. That's not exactly what I was. I mean, to what I was to my point, right?
That's
Like,
not a feeling. That's what happened.
okay, and you
Historically, we've
listen. If
proven
you
that's what happened.
and okay, and that's fair that you believe that, and that's fine.
That's
And I'm
not
not
a belief, sir. That's not a belief. That's what happened.
That happened to my family. That's not what I believe. That is something that actually happened.
okay. I get what you're saying. Me personally, I get y'all have shown me the evidence and things of that nature, but I'm not exactly, it makes sense, but I just haven't seen a good
You
amount
haven't
of.
traced your lineage to know whether or not it applies to
I don't
you.
really think it
So,
traces
and that's
matters
fine.
to
We can have
lineage.
the conversation if it doesn't apply to you.
Okay, and
But
that's
you can say
fine.
without saying, like, you don't have to beat around the bush.
Right. I'm not beating around the bush. I'm just trying to understand that how we got from black people today. I mean, I guess it all stems from how we classify ourselves as black, right? Because me personally, whether you are, native or descendant child of slavery, FBA, or what have you, and basically, if you are in this country since its foundation and you are of a darker skin, there were policies put in place to hinder your economic success all the way up into 1960s. So,
But still, oh my bad, go ahead.
my point being is that it's not to say kumbaya and say we all need to get along, run this fight for struggle. No, because I do believe identity is important. I say all these things to say, hey, look, we're still here, we're still surviving, we're still going to keep working, but we can't just sit up here when we start making comments like America, it's people's choices and things like that. For this, sometimes you don't always have choice. You don't always have ability to make choices, right? Like this country, you can make a wrong decision by going to prison or be wrongly accused by going to prison at a young age in this country. And our country still actively penalizes and hinders you from re-entering society and living, trying to make better decisions. And that's actual things put into law, regardless of what your origin is, or regardless of who you are. If you're a minority, or if you're just simply a
That is based on what the individual knows.
Let me ask you a question,
okay,
Pharaoh. Let me ask you a question. If let's say some people rob a store and they get caught,
yeah.
and the punishment and this is in a different country, and the punishment for them robbing the store is they getting their hands fucking chopped off.
I would say that
Would
that's
you which would you say is most effective to stop crime?
I think chopping somebody's hand off is draconian. I do.
All right,
I
but
think
would
that.
you actually want that in practice here in America?
So no, we're not. I
All
think
right
that.
then.
I think that
All
it.
right then. I'm just saying. You know what I'm saying? It's
So I feel
a lot
like.
better than getting your fucking arms chopped off for some petty theft
So yeah, you
or
make.
sleeping with somebody's wife can get you murdered, and that's justly in other countries. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I believe
No,
that's
I
fair.
don't like this prison industrial complex. I know I don't like it. You know what I'm saying? But are there things that we can do to curb that shit? Absolutely. Did a lot of were there some black folks that chose to do crimes on their own volition? because they were told by some older individuals that if they do some crimes, that they'll be prosperous.
So let me ask you this 100.
Let's
Why
keep
do
it
you
real.
let me
Let's keep it real. Let's keep it real,
so
bruh.
let me
Don't curb my questions.
I'm
Let's
not
keep it real.
I'm keeping it real with you. So I'm asking you a serious question here, right? As a black man to black man, um, why lead is
Or I'm
Oklahoma?
sorry, African to Indian. I'm African to Indian, or assumed African to Indian.
I'm okay. I'm joking. So why is it that 24 states in the United States have legalized weed, including the District of Columbia, but it's still illegal at the federal level?
Business as usual, because I keep telling you about the monopoly, but you keep calling them white people. That's just how the monopoly operates to control industry.
Interesting. Okay, so 24 state if they're trying to control industry, why would damn near half the country legalize it?
Look, there's some particular individuals that really benefit from the legalization of of cannabis.
So why not
Because you got to think
legalize
about it
everything?
like, okay, say you with the cartel, and a lot of your supply gets distributed to the United States, and you as you know what I'm saying, an entity from the cartel would benefit from these laws that are passed. So you think that just shit to benefit the people, man? That's more so to benefit the motherfuckers who are already controlling the trade right now.
Hey, it's this simple. It takes 5 minutes to answer your question. I just went to my state's legislative website to see to find the bill to legalize marijuana in my state, find out who introduced the bill, go find out who funded their campaign. Boom, you have why it happened.
So I'll ask you that question because I want you mentioned earlier that you hate the criminal justice system. The law is a tool, is what I was getting at here.
I didn't say I hate it. I said I didn't. I don't really
100.
like.
You never let me
Don't
finish.
put words in my mouth, dude. I don't hate that shit because sometimes I feel like there's some people that deserve to go.
Okay, and I agree. That's why we have them. That's why they'll continue to be around. But the law is a tool, and that law was used. The illegal marijuana was made to be illegal, um, to simply more or less lock up hippies and black people, right? And that's coming just directly from the White House administration at the time, right? The 13th documentary is an excellent. They actually have the person that said it. So I think that like it's important to understand law's a tool, right? And it was weaponized against black communities, right? And my point being that if 24, and I want you to understand how deep this goes, right? That law that was passed in 20, 30 years ago, 24 states, 24 states. Me and I've talked with my Republican colleagues, white, black. I've talked with my Democratic colleagues, and they've all agreed that, or friends, I should say, they've all agreed, all of us agree that we should be legal amongst my age group, by the way. Not, I don't really just got friends in my age group.
I
We
mean,
all agree.
if you're going to get into it, you might as well just move to a state that is already legal, or move to a country that is already
So I
legal. If
have
you want
to,
to get into the trade, I mean, it's a
in that
very profitable
and that and that's
trade
the
to get
crazy
in.
and that's the craziness of it, right? Because 24 damn near half the country has decided this is legal, right? This is fine to be legal, or at least have some, or you can be allowed to smoke it or whatever. But at the federal level, it's still illegal, right? It just goes to show you that it's retarded. And if half the country damn near believes it should be legal, it should be
I
legal.
mean, it
Hey,
is what it is.
Carol.
It's not a retarded thing. It's not retarded. It's just what the general public basically wants, because
Right.
the government is not some outside entity. The government is made up by the people. So it's basically the overall consensus of the country is they're half and half, essentially. But basically, since they already had these outdated ass laws, you know what I'm saying? The process of reneging on all these laws is very, very, it's a delicate process because now you got to free all these people. And it's like, well, shit, we kind of, we can't really renege on all that shit when we got motherfuckers wet signatures on these contracts, on these bonds.
Yeah, and
So
we
hell
let that
no.
happen through our consumption at this point. But I want to tell you, Pharaoh, with a joint in my hand, literally blowing smoke out my mouth as we speak. As your conservative peer, I am not for the federal legalization of marijuana.
Why?
Because when things become federally legalized, they become federally regulated. And
Okay,
it would
so
be like
you can
tobacco. It's like
let me say this. You
Facts.
can make a law where it is federally legal, but you can leave it up to the states to how they want to roll it out. Um, like abortion, like the Supreme Court when they reversed Roe v. Wade. Yeah, all that did was knock it down at the federal level and leave it up to the states.
with not
This
having it federally approved, you kind of don't have to worry about the FDA getting involved. The state, all they're worried about is pretty much the money you make from it.
they're already
The
involved
the
because
when
they
how,
already involved.
with the state, they're pretty much worried about how you make money from it, pretty much the trade of it. When it's
No, no,
at the federal
that's not
level,
true.
they care about they're more so trying to regulate how you grow it, what you grow it with, who can grow it, and
Well,
yeah, it becomes a lot more privatized.
so
By
Yeah,
my
that's a
state
fact.
legalizing marijuana, I can grow plants in my home or outside of my home without any regulation.
right,
With the federal
so
legalization, there becomes regulation on all of that, and we saw that happen with tobacco.
Yeah,
It would be just like tobacco.
well, I'm
that's
telling you
fact.
this from a perspective of a person who actually works in state government. They also regulate something. They also regulate it, right? It's now depending on your state, it's to how much, right? I mean, I think you live in Virginia, so I'm not, I don't know how much they regulate. I don't follow Virginia's laws or anything like that, but I can tell you for Maryland, they definitely regulated it to a point where it went to a point of yes, you can only have about this much. Yes, it's legal, but you can only have about this much and be carrying this much at so and so time, right? And that's just to give you a brief, very brief little understanding of how
I
it's
mean, I
regulated.
understand
So
that, and I'm not
regulation,
disputing that.
okay, and
When
Lo, you got to let me finish. So
you're
it's like
speaking to points that
I mean,
go
but you
ahead.
just said, and I'm telling you, you're saying that if it becomes legal at the federal level, it's going to be all these regulations. I promise you, it would not be. I promise you, it would just all they would have to do is make it legal because it becomes a problem when people are trying to get contracts, right, with the federal government, or when people are trying to get jobs at the federal government. Like it's just bullshit because many people, and it's really a law for I don't know how old you are,
You
but
must not know what happened with tobacco. It would be just like
no one,
tobacco.
tobacco's terrible for you. Like that shit shouldn't be legal anyway. Like no one I know smokes
It's not that
tobacco.
tobacco is terrible for you. It's the
Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment. Channel Raw TV Bay Bay.